And while the battle is underway, Moody's downgraded the credit rating, which my next guest says will strengthen the fiscal hawk's hand, as Emily just said. Joining me now is Dan Clifton. He's head of policy research at Strategas, which is a Baird company. Dan, it's good to see you. And so progress here, or what? Do you really think the downgrade will have a big role in possibly holding this up?
Well, anything that moves the ball forward is progress, Kelly, right? And they were able to move the ball forward. It was done with some present votes. And I do think that they wouldn't have agreed to move forward unless there wasn't a commitment to make changes. What are some of those commitments? Possibly moving up the Medicaid work requirements by a year, changing some of the phase outs of the clean energy provisions. But as you know, when you make a move one way to secure votes, you could be losing votes in another direction. And that, with the 30-seat majority, wouldn't be a big issue, but it's a 3-seat majority. So this is hanging on razor's edge. They're trying to figure out how to turn that Rubik's Cube and get all the colors to line up. And they got to do it by Wednesday if they want to stick to their timeline. Now, I want to be clear with everybody. These tax cuts don't expire until the end of the year. The reconciliation instruction doesn't expire until September 30th. And you probably got to do it by the first week of August for the debt ceiling. So they do have time, but you don't want to leave the piñata hanging out there so that it could be hit. And that's why the House is like, let's get it done this week. Let's get it over to the Senate. It's going to be extremely complicated when it gets over to the Senate. And I think they made progress last night, but a lot more work to do over the next couple of days.
You know, going back down the rabbit hole, going into the time machine back to 2011 actually gave me some hope that maybe we can fix the situation on the deficit now like we did back then, because back then it was about 8% of GDP in 2011. It was actually larger than I remembered. And then through a kind of mix of the Bush tax cuts expired. So, again, here's where past could be prologue. Taxes went up on high earners. Payroll taxes were starting to rebound post-Great Recession. We had the sequestration, the austerity kind of keep spending in check. The economy rebounded, so you had revenues on the up. And interestingly enough, healthcare spending was constrained from a mix of kind of Obamacare effects, some slower growth things going on at the time. I'm thinking to myself, you know what, we kind of could face a similar move now. And that deficit went from 8% to about 3% of GDP by 2015.
Yeah, well, we're in a little bit of a harder place right now, but I love your optimism. And look, the deficit has come down both times after the rating downgrade, so 2011 and 2023. But as I have long argued, Kelly, is that once your interest cost hits 14% of tax revenue, you move into austerity. And we went over that in July of 2023 for the very first time in almost 30 years. And we're now at 18% of tax revenue. So the ability to make the changes that were made in 2011, 2012, and 2013 are somewhat more restricted. But when I read all the analysis about this tax bill, people are saying, oh, it increases the deficit. It probably does, because they put some growth provisions in there to sterilize the tariff effect. But you also have tariff revenues that are not being included in the Moody's analysis or being included in this morning's Wall Street Journal report. And that's going to start netting itself out. So the tariffs are really bad for growth, but they've sort of backstopped this bill. And it's given Congress a little bit more flexibility to get growth higher, do something a little bit more on the deficit. My anticipation is that the deficit's coming down over the next 12 to 18 months.
I mean, it's